Hello and welcome. Tonight we're speaking about building sustainable coalitions. With me we have Vinit Allen, the founder of the Sustainable World Coalition. Vinit, thank you so much for joining us.
Tom, thanks for having me.
All right.
Privilege.
Please tell me all about the Sustainable World Coalition.
We are a small, though agile, organization. Our mission is in education for sustainability, and we publish books, we have programs, we have an online course, and we produce events, all designed to give information to the general public on the basic understanding of sustainability, both the big picture and what that looks like locally in our communities, understanding of the issues, and also what we can all do to make a big difference to turn those issues around.
Sounds like a big job.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it. Fortunately, we're not the only ones. There are a lot of organizations and increasingly, as you know, businesses now taking a strong lead in sustainable business, instituting sustainability principles throughout their company or throughout their organization. We're seeing a big awakening on that level.
What's the main thrust? How do you get your message out?
Well, as I mentioned, that we produce events. We have one that we're right in the midst of right now called Spring of Sustainability, a large global 3-month event. We publish books. We have the Sustainable World Sourcebook is our flagship publication. It's this one here. This in 100 pages, this basically gives you a complete overview of the environment, social justice, economics, community, energy, and personal aspects of sustainability. So we're giving you the big picture, and we're also giving people resources and actions that they can take within their local communities to make a difference. So we have books, we have programs such as the Engagement Circle program that uses the source book and our accompanying learning and engagement guide. It's a study and action guide for use with the source book. And then we produce events like Spring of Sustainability. So on all these different formats, we're getting education out to the general public and to schools primarily.
I understand you were at an event that gave you a good overview of what's going on around the planet, and that gave you the idea to produce this sort of book.
Well, I had the good fortune of fate, one would say, I think, of attending the UN World Summit in Johannesburg almost exactly 10 years ago. We have the Rio Plus 20 conference, they're calling it, coming up this June in Rio de Janeiro, which I'll also be attending. But I went primarily as a lay person, I would say, in terms of, I was a graphic designer. I love the environment, I love nature, but that has not been my profession. So I went basically as an individual to find out what is the bottom line in terms of what our situation is on the planet, what's our prognosis as we would receive it from, you might say, humanity's wisest council, which in my opinion does come together at these big UN summits in which we get to hear from a diverse cadre of the human species. We have teachers, we have political leaders, indigenous people, youth, organizational people, business people. They're all coming together to give their input on what we need to do. And that composite opinion or council, as it were, is in fact our best way forward. It's the accumulated wisdom of humans looking at what we need to do. Scientists are in there as well, of course. In the course of being there for a couple of weeks, I saw that on the one hand, we are in very serious trouble. Pretty much every major indicator as we look towards the coming decades points to increasing use of footprint, running out of resources, decline of ecosystem health and resilience. I could go on, but the situation does not look good. On the other hand, I got to hear a lot about, we have solutions for almost everything. They're either in practice in some part of the world now, or they've been worked out on paper with very credible research done that we can trust that if we were to fund that research and those solutions, we would be able to turn things around. So as I flew home from Johannesburg on the plane, I sat with that. What is the missing ingredient here? How is it that if we know we're in serious trouble and that we have solutions, we're not moving as fast as we can towards implementing those solutions. And I realized that it was that people don't know, in general, what I had just found out. Because before I knew that, I wasn't on fire about what we need to do about that. I knew that I had a sense that something didn't feel right, that we might be in some trouble, but I wasn't really sure what to do about it. It seemed large and fairly amorphous. Now that I had this basic understanding of having been schooled in a number of ways at workshops and reading books and from the speakers there at the summit over the 2-week period, I realized that this educational piece is so fundamental to giving people the knowledge of where we need to go and why it's urgent, and what to do specifically to begin to make that contribution, both on the individual level and collectively and through campaigns and organizations.
So it's good information architecture.
Exactly. It's understanding the most important information, how to access it, and then knowing where to go for the resources you need, of what kind of actions to take, who to connect with, what organizations are useful. So by the time I had gotten home from the airline ride back to the San Francisco Bay Area here where I reside, I realized, well, I could produce a book that would give that kind of overview information. I could mount a conference that would give that kind of actual experience, bring in the speakers that have expertise in each of those fundamental areas of environment, social justice, and economics. I could be a link to people to take the blessings I just received of that information and spread it far and wide. So that's exactly what I did. I founded my own organization, Sustainable World Coalition. We shortly joined Earth Island Institute so that we could have their nonprofit fiscal sponsorship, and as well as the services they offer. They're like an incubator of a number of mostly small, but not all small, nonprofit organizations who are up to very important missions around the world.
Oh, there's 40 of them total. Or more.
Over 60 now, actually. Yeah, there were about 30 when I joined back in 2003. And we've gone on to, in fact, produce a couple of conferences in San Francisco, produce the source book and the guide.
Did the source book just come out?
No, this is the 3rd edition, and this one is 2010, and we will have a new one out for beginning of 2013.
Do you want to show us a few pages of the book?
Sure, thanks. It's, the point being, you won't see too much, I'm sure, as an audience, but the point being, we've got lots of graphics, lots of sidebars, lots of what you can do, bullet points. So it's not words on a page. This is very much about wherever possible, we illustrate the issue with a photo, and we bring those bullet points so that people have an understanding of what we can do very specifically. And
where can you get the book?
You can get it through our website, swcoalition.org, for Sustainable World Coalition. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at selected bookstores. So it's not, if you Google it, it'll come right to one of those sites.
So it's out there?
Yeah, it's out there.
Right. Well, tell me about the Spring of Sustainability. I was on your website. It looks like it's a teleconference.
It's a new model of event, and it's actually a brilliant model because it allows people in their homes, wherever they are, to just tune in either on their phone or over the web. Most of these events are actually half-an-hour interviews that happen every weekday. Each weekday is on a different theme. So on Mondays we have green business. Tuesdays we have green lifestyles. Wednesdays are activism for a just and sustainable world. Thursdays are global stewardship. And Fridays are pioneers of sustainability. It's our catch-all for people like Dr. Jane Goodall, who you can't easily fit into a category. She's that big in a way. And so people can just tune in for a half hour on the phone every weekday at 12 noon Pacific for what I call a shot of inspiration. This is kind of like the bottom line, crisp, focused information from various leaders. In addition to, we have over 100 people from around the world. It's an impressive list.
So it's a conference call.
Yeah, it's a large conference call, exactly. Yeah. So we have people like Van Jones, Bill McKibben, John Robbins, Michael Brune, president of the Sierra Club, Tom Hartman, Kevin Donaher, Randy Hayes. We have a long list of people who are many of my heroes from around the world. So
Vandana Shiva.
Vandana Shiva. Mm-hmm.
Good.
In addition to those half-hour interviews, we have special themed events. We have 3 one-day summits that are also teleconference or via the web on thriving communities. We have one on indigenous wisdom and modern science. That should be a very interesting juxtaposition. And we have a youth jam that's taken from something that's normally a live event, but will be translated into an interactive phone call. We use Maestro technology, so it's not a static phone call. We take questions from the audience. We break people out into small group sharing circles, and then people can share back with the group.
Is there a cost to participate?
All of this is free.
Oh.
I'm amazed that we're able to provide this, but we are. What keeps this going is if people want to upgrade their registration, in order to register, it's very easy. It takes about 5 seconds to go to springofsustainability.com, put in your first name and your email for free. You're registered at that point, and you're given a link, a phone number, and code to be able to key into any of the events on the phone. You're also given a web link, so you can go there on your computer as well. All of those sessions are free. However, if you want to be able to listen to recordings, actually download them, put them on your iPod or your computer, listen to them anytime you want. That's called an upgrade. In order to do that, there's a small charge for that. And you can either upgrade a particular theme track of events, or you can download the entire list of events.
Sounds like an interesting juxtaposition or mix of entrepreneurial acumen and activist know-how.
Those themes obviously are very broad, so anybody can learn a lot. I mean, I'm tuning into as many as I can, because despite the fact that this is my profession, well, 2 things. No one can know the breadth of all these themes we're covering with any degree of mastery. And the second thing, things are moving so fast right now, exponential, that even if you did know them last month, you don't this month, unless you've been staying current by being plugged into informational sources. And this is a great way to do exactly that. Just tune in for that daily shot of inspiration, half hour every day at noon, and you're there. So,
was it hard rounding up all these big names to participate?
Well, it was certainly exciting being on the phone with Bono's personal assistant and Kofi Annan and Bill Clinton and so forth. Jane Goodall, for that matter. It's very exciting to be able to talk directly with some of these people that have always been my heroes, and the fact that they could pick, for example, Hunter Lovins, who was one of our green business speakers, she could pick any Monday in the entire spring period, 13 weeks that the program runs, and she would be on the phone doing her interview for half an hour at the scheduled time. So that made it very easy to confirm any speaker who realized that this would be a good way to get my voice out to a lot of people, hundreds of people on the call and thousands of people eventually downloading the recording. So then it becomes a matter of whether, amongst their certainly busy schedule, if they're willing to take one lunch hour and just phone in for an interview and pick the Monday that would work. In that case, then it's very doable. It's a lot easier to get these big names to commit to that situation than it is to fly them out on a particular weekend, and that's a much bigger thing.
Good.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So the activist section, what goes on the activist day? You say one of these days is devoted to activism.
Exactly. Well, it's today, actually. Wednesday, we just heard from John Perkins, who was interviewed by Julia Butterfly Hill. So that's a good example. Well, it's activism for a just and sustainable world. We wanted to make sure that just, it's a small word, 4 letters, but a huge meaning, because what it does is include the entire social justice component of sustainability, which is often left out. Many people equate sustainability to environmental concerns, and while that's certainly a large part of it, it's only one of the 3 pillars of sustainability, as it's been called, the other 2 being social justice and economics. And those three three pillars, of three legs of the stool, are always involved in any issue. And if you leave one of them out, and certainly if you leave both of them out, then any work that you do to try to protect a particular ecosystem, if the human element has not been squarely addressed and fairly addressed, then you're not going to be successful. So, so that's an important point that I'm always quick to make, is that if we want a sustainable world, that is to say, a world that works for all beings, humans and the natural world forever, then we need to address that social equity, that access to opportunity, to resources, so we can make that available to everybody, not just for the wealthy.
Sustainable is a tricky word. Some deep ecologist writers have taken some issue with others in the environmental movement for using the word, for improving the situation, but not actually making it sustainable. A writer like Derek Jensen might point out to a writer like Paul Hawken that real sustainability is not making business, it's not accommodating industrial capitalism. It really is creating a situation where we can live forever. And some people question whether we can accommodate industrial capitalism and have a truly sustainable world. Is it an issue that you wrestle with?
Well, in my opinion, it's not so much the what gets included, but how. How, if we look at how the industries are conducting their business and their operations, that's the big question. Not that they are an industrial company per se, but if they're using sustainability principles in their operations, if they're taking into account the upstream and the downstream of the product, how are those raw resources produced that went into the product, and what's happening after the product is in the hands of the consumer, and what happens after it goes to the landfill or whatever. If all those considerations are being addressed, as well as their situation for their employees and what they do with their profits, are they giving back to the community? Are they working with the people within their community and finding out from the people what's working, what's not working, where they're making their investments? All of that taken as a whole equals either a sustainable enterprise or not. Sometimes you have for large enterprises, it's often a mixed bag, so it's sometimes nuanced, but the fact is that that's determined, again, not by what it is they're doing so much by how they're doing it. So that's, for businesses to become sustainable, there's a very specific criteria and standards that are now in place that need to be worked with.
Interwoven was a pioneer on that. Are you familiar with Interwoven?
And actually, I'm not.
Oh, they're a carpet tile company, and Paul Hawken's first book was a big inspiration to the founder of
Interface.
Oh, I'm sorry, Interface. Yeah, thank you.
Ray Anderson, yeah.
Yes, yeah, right. So a question would be, are you in touch with Ray Anderson? And it seems like he's a real pioneer on the whole...
He has been. He passed away recently.
Ah, I see.
Unfortunately. He's absolutely a hero. I'm sure he would have been in our green business.
Yeah, he called it Mount Sustainability.
Yeah, no, he was a real pioneer and made a huge shift in a very large carpet industry and yes, proved that you could go from a very large, polluting, unsustainably operated company to an extremely sustainable, clean operation. He's very inspiring what he's done.
Is Interface continued in that direction?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's inspired others now who are following in their footsteps, and that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see an industry leader. DuPont is another great example. They are consistently ahead of government standards. In fact, they're pushing for the government to take stronger standards so that they won't be at such a competitive disadvantage to be investing so heavily in sustainability. But that's only in the initial investment, because once they've made that, which they have, it becomes profitable almost right away, and then they have a very strong competitive advantage, and we see that now. They're extremely successful company and modeling how investing in sustainability can can actually bring you to a very strong, profitable position, very competitive position.
Have you gotten the media coverage you were hoping for?
With Spring of Sustainability?
With your whole entire operation?
Well, there's always more. You know, we're not a household name by any means at this point, but we're definitely increasing our sales and our visibility, and Spring of Sustainability has definitely increased our visibility a lot. So we're moving in the right direction. We're getting great guidance. We're creating a lot of partnerships now with organizations that will be mutually beneficial to getting our mutual purposes out in a bigger way. So I'm very confident that we're moving in the right direction, and we have to. I mean, I'm feeling the fire right now.
It seems like you're helping to get everyone on message and then having the same message.
Well, you know, given what's at stake right now and how fast things are unraveling, in my opinion, it's appropriate, it's healthy to feel, and certainly natural, to feel angry, to feel frustrated, to feel sad, to feel afraid of what's coming down the pike, because we're going past tipping points right now, and the Earth will never look the same. It actually has to get a lot worse before it gets better. I'm prepared for that now, and in fact, as Barbara Marx Hubbard eloquently puts it, crises are evolutionary drivers. They force us to stop in our tracks and say, wow, it's not working. We need to do something now and reorganize our priorities and really begin to get into action. And so that's exactly what we're headed for very soon. We haven't felt the real pain of what the results of our actions here in this country for the most part. I mean, it's here and there. But the primary cause is, you know, what's happening in Africa with the droughts, you know, the climate change caused droughts that are a result of our large footprint, our consumption, our lack of sustainability principled living. So I'm here to try to do what I can to awaken us to what we can do, because there's a lot we can do. But I feel driven, you know, I feel frustrated and angry and sad and scared, all of those things pretty regularly. And if you read the data, it's pretty hard not to. And I think that explains a lot of the resistance that people have to getting into. I mean, our numbers should be larger on Spring of Sustainability. These are free sessions with the top speakers, the passionate, amazing people. And you know, we've got a decent enrollment, but we should have many, many thousands on board for this. And we're doing what we can to get the word out. Not everyone knows about it, but I understand the resistance that people have. It's big, it is scary, and there's this idea that we can't, as an individual, I can't do that much that will make a difference. And yet there's so much we can do, both on our own and awakening that same sense of urgency and motivation in our friends. You get the tide rolling, and many social movements in this country have been started by just a few people. So this needs to be one of them.
In your activist section, do you focus much on corporations and corporate control of government and media, and do you feel that that's part of the problem as far as addressing these issues? I mean, the information is out there, has been out there, continues to be out there, and one of the big reasons that it's not being acted upon is corporate influence on our government and on our media.
Absolutely. Activism needs to be at all levels. It needs to be on the street. The Occupy movement is very important that people on that person-to-person, real-life street level be seeing the dissatisfaction, the desire and intention to change things. But we also absolutely need to be working on the institutional level with governments, with businesses, with organizations. And that's happening too. And there are a number of organizations like Move On that are moving. There are a number of them. Move On is one example. Credo, Care2, Common Dreams. There are a lot of very large, multi-million member organizations that organize campaigns that feel like they're winnable. Stopping the Keystone tar sands pipeline was one of them. Knowing that people like James Hansen have said, it's game over if this pipeline goes through and all those tar sands are processed, and the amount of emissions released from that entire region, which is actually much higher than the emissions released from oil. It's like we've got to draw the line somewhere. So that by organizing millions of people and hundreds of thousands of petitions signed and so forth, they actually do really create some impact and get things done. So we need to be expressing our opinion in a forceful way at those kind of upper end, the institutional level.
So how do we get started? Tell us about your website again, and how do people get involved in your program?
Well, Spring of Sustainability is the one that's currently happening and will be for close to 3 more months. So again, that's springofsustainability.com. Register for free and immediately tune in to the program page. And in terms of our own work, swcoalition.org for Sustainable World Coalition. You'll see our programs, our publications, our course. The new course will probably launch in May, a 7-week, it's called Co-Creating a Thriving World, and it's a combination of web and phone based, and it utilizes, again, the source book and the guide.
Do you accept donations on your website?
Of course. Happy to be supported in any way.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
And people can download we have a PDF of resources for engagement, we call it. Organizations, there's some powerful documentary videos that we've selected on there, and we'll shortly have a media component on our website. We've got about 25 public domain videos we've picked out, again, for their importance and their impact around different areas of sustainability. So you'll be able to tune into that in about 3 weeks or so.
Very good. Well, Vinit, Allen, thank you so much for coming here and telling me about all the good things you're doing.
Tom, pleasure.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure. Thanks for your work.
All right. And thank you for watching.